So, you want to get better at strategy. If you're completely new to the game, or you often find yourself unsure of what to do, this video is for you. It's important to note that Dead by Daylight is a team-based game, and I am of the opinion that the more you help your teammates, the more likely you are to escape. In this video, I will be covering some general tips and recommendations to help you and your team get out of the gates safely, whether you're playing in solo queue or surviving with friends. And with that being said, let's jump right in. The ultimate goal of the survivors is to finish repairing 5 of the 7 generators in the map. This means that ideally, at least one person is working on a gen at all times. If your teammate is getting chased, work on a gen. If the killer is camping the hook, work on a gen. If the killer is chasing you, work on a gen. The more time survivors spend pressuring gens, the more likely it is that you escape. At the beginning of the trial, I recommend spreading out and working on separate gens. Whenever more than one survivor is on a generator, there is a speed penalty applied to each additional survivor. For example, if 2 survivors worked on separate gens, it would take them 90 seconds to finish both. If those survivors worked on the 2 gens together, it would take them 106 seconds. Also, if multiple survivors are working on the same generator and the killer shows up, it makes it much easier for them to get multiple hits and down someone quickly. It is much better if the killer chases one survivor off a gen while the other 3 continue working on theirs. A 3-gen refers to 3 generators that are close together. As generators get completed, you'll want to make sure that the last 3 gens are as spread out as possible. This will make it much harder for the killer to guard them all and chase survivors away. At the beginning of the match, I recommend trying to finish a gen as close to the middle of the map as possible. The more gens there are around the edge of the map, the easier it is to avoid a 3-gen. If I see a gen in a corner next to a strong loop, I like to leave it for later. Ultimately, you want at least 2 gens to be on opposite sides of the map from each other when you are down to your last one. Each hook phase is 60 seconds long, and it's important to take advantage of the time and not be in too much of a rush to unhook. When I am working on a gen and a teammate gets hooked, I try to calculate if I have enough time to finish it before the survivor gets to the next phase. As a general rule, if I am over 60% on the gen, I will finish it before unhooking. It takes 36 seconds to complete 40% of a gen, leaving me 24 seconds to get to the hook. It's also possible that someone else is going for the hook anyway. Taking advantage of the time a survivor is on hook can be extremely helpful, whether you're working on a gen or healing a teammate. If the killer is camping a survivor on hook, I try to trade with them before they go to the next phase. Now that killers can no longer grab a survivor during the unhook animation, you simply need to run up while healthy, take a hit, and then unhook the survivor. I recommend only doing this as a last resort right before they go to the next phase, especially if they are about to die. You can avoid an outright trade, but it requires some coordination with a teammate. To do this, you both need to run up to the hook at the same time, and whoever does not get hit first is the one to unhook. Tunneling refers to when the killer chases the same survivor after being unhooked. Sometimes committing to them until they are out of the game. If the killer is intent on tunneling, I usually try to help my teammate, whether it's by taking a hit or getting a flashlight save. If the killer is not close by when you unhook a teammate, but comes back soon after, I recommend letting the killer see you so they have the option to chase you instead of tunneling. Keep in mind that the survivor that you unhooked is injured, so they are louder and leave blood trails, making them easier to find. If the killer doesn't see anyone else to chase, they have no reason to not go for the injured survivor. Once you are in chase, it is important to waste as much of the killer's time as possible so your teammates can work on gens or heal. I made a tutorial on looping which I have linked in the description, so I won't go too in-depth, but I will mention that looping efficiently plays a huge part in the overall strategy of the game. You almost always want to lead the killer away from your teammates unless you are dead on hook and need help. The farther you go down from gens being worked on, the longer it will take the killer to push them off. Keeping an eye on your heads-up display is a vital part of knowing what the killer and your teammates are doing, as well as what perks they are running. It will show you who is in chase, who is on a gen, and how much progress it has. If you see someone is close to finishing a gen and they get chased off, you may want to find it before it regresses. If your teammate has been hooked twice and is getting chased, you may want to take aggro. If it's a stealth killer and no one is in chase, you may want to be on high alert or even go somewhere with better visibility. Knowing what your team is doing will help you know what you should do. Healing can be very situational and will play a huge part in your strategy. When going against stealth killers, it's usually better to be healthy, so you don't go down right away if they sneak up on you. The Oni literally gets his power from injured survivors, so it's crucial to get healed as soon as possible. Legion, however, is the opposite. Because it's so easy for them to hit you while in frenzy, constantly healing is a huge waste of time. Also, perks such as Resilience and Made for This only work when you're injured and give you a speed boost to a variety of actions. I recommend that you only heal if you feel like being able to take an extra hit in chase is worth the time invested. Identifying what perks the killer is using can oftentimes inform and adjust your strategy. If you are able to know all 4 killer perks, you can rule out anything else. This can be extremely helpful in the endgame if you don't need to worry about No-Ed or Blood Warden. If you believe the killer is using aura reading perks, you can counter them by crouching behind an unfinished generator or hiding in a locker. The better you are at identifying the killer's perks, the more you will be able to counter them. I recommend taking some time after each game to look at the killer's perks and add-ons. A lot of killers have items that you interact with to counter their power. Wesker, for example, has cans that you spray yourself with when you're infected. Some of these items are unlimited, and some are not. If a resource has a limited quantity, I recommend saving it for as long as possible. As I covered in my looping tutorial, pallets are an example of a resource that I only use when absolutely necessary. Nemesis syringes are another. As much as possible, I try to leave these items until the end of the match. Certain survivor actions make an audible and visual alert that notify the killer. The primary examples include fast vaulting a window, finishing a generator, and unhooking a survivor. Being aware of what information you are giving the killer is a very important part of your strategy. For example, if a survivor is hooked next to a gen with a lot of progress, unhooking the survivor may bring the killer back before you can finish the gen. If you leave the survivor on the hook while you finish the gen, the killer won't be notified that anyone is there. These kinds of decisions are very circumstantial, and the more experience you have, the better you'll be at knowing how to handle each situation. Finishing the last gen and opening the exit gates are crucial moments in each match. When I am working on the last generator and a healthy teammate is being chased, I like to 99 the gen and then wait for the survivor to get injured before finishing it. This way, if the killer has no ed, my teammate won't get down from one hit. Also, if the survivor is using adrenaline, they will get the speed boost from getting hit and then instantly be healed. More importantly, if the killer is camping a hooked survivor, it is much better to rescue before popping the last gen. "99ing the exit gate is even more important because once the gate is open, the endgame collapse timer starts. If all survivors are standing, the timer is orange and lasts for 2 minutes. If a survivor is downed or on hook, the timer is gray and goes down at half speed. 99ing the gate gives you and your team more time to heal, unhook, and get to the gate before opening. Also, if the killer is using Blood Warden, and they hook a survivor before the gate is open, the exit won't get blocked. It's important to note that the gate should be close enough to being opened that it only requires a tap, and it's preferable that someone stays close by to open quickly if someone is getting chased toward it. Dead by Daylight is an extremely complex game, and each killer and their perks require a slightly different strategy. The more you learn, the better you'll be at countering them. It's also important to note that everyone has their own playstyle and enjoys the game in different ways. The intention of this tutorial is not to tell anyone how to play, but simply to inform your decisions as you develop your own style. I hope these tips can help you along the way. And that's it for this tutorial. Now go be a menace.